Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio, and today I am in an exceptionally good mood, because this is video number 2 that Pokemon actually commissioned me to make. Pokemon have paid me to make a couple of YouTube videos. It's not a sentence I thought I'd be saying a couple of years ago, but I'm delighted nonetheless. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be making a couple of Pokemon decks on PTCGO, the Pokemon trading card game online, the official online client for the Pokemon trading card game. And we're going to make a couple of decks, and what we're going to do is we're going to make one which is very straightforward, and one which is, shall we say, a little bit more tricksy. And we are going to be focusing very much on the new Pokemon from Rebel Clash, because frankly, I'm very excited about Rebel Clash. New set just come out, and I think you should be too. Now, one of my personal favourite cards in the set is Boltund. I love Boltund. It's a Pokemon EX. You can only have 4 of any card in your deck. And no, it's Pokemon V. Pokemon V nowadays, and it's a Pokemon V, 1 lightning energy, search your deck for 2 energy and attach them, 2 energy, 10 damage plus 30 more for each lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So the theory with this deck becomes very, very simple. Let's get as much energy on the field as we can, as quick as we can, and smash. Now, if we're doing that, there are 2 Pokemon we need to be playing nowadays. One of them is Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko is one of these ridiculous cards, right? It is one of these cards that you have to play. Like, if you're playing a Lightning deck, you have to play 1 copy of Tapu Koko. Now, it is a Prism Star card, and the Prism Star rule says only 1 of each type of Prism Star card. So you can have more Prism Stars, and we are actually going to play a second one in a moment, but only 1 of each. So we play Tapu Koko for the ability Dance of the Ancients. If it's on your bench, you may attach 2 energy from the discard pile, 1 to each of 2 bench Pokemon, and then this boy goes into the Lost Zone. The Lost Zone is a place where Pokemon basically don't come back from. They are lost, so to speak. But this card gets 2 extra energy on the field, so we'll put 1 of them in. And then we want to also be playing Zeraora. Now, Zeraora is a phenomenal card. It's a Pokemon GX, and I mean, look, it's got an attack that hits 160 for free energy. That's not why we're playing the card. It has an ability that gives your Pokemon with lightning energy attached free retreat. That is actually really cool, and we love it, but that's not why we're playing the card. We're playing the card for the GX attack Full Voltage GX. You attach 5 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way that you like. And we're going to play 2 of these, partly because we've got to put out 6 prize cards at the beginning of the game. 1 of these might end up in our prizes. We don't want that to happen. So we play 2 to cover for it, and also to increase our chances of getting this early in the game. We want a turn 1 Full Voltage GX. Now, you might have to attach an energy to retreat your active Pokemon, like Boltund. Remember, you only need 1 energy, and this will give free retreat. But you've got Tapu Koko that can attach those energy turn 1, so in theory, this gets the energy on Zeraora ready to use a GX attack. Your attachment for the turn goes on to Boltund to retreat, and that's how you get the turn 1 Full Voltage. They are the main ones we're going for. Now, there is one other that I love as a cheeky little tech here, and it's Rayquaza GX. Now, this one's been out a little while now, and we're not playing any grass energy, so we're not attacking with it. It is here purely because we've got the ability that lets you discard the top 3 cards of your deck, and then attach a basic energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. It gets 1 more energy on the field, but remember, with Boltund, 1 more energy means 30 more damage. This is an excellent, excellent thing. We love it, ladies and gentlemen. We love it. So that's largely our Pokemon line. There's 1 more Pokemon we want to be playing here, and it is Dedenne. Now, Dedenne is a lightning Pokemon. We can attack with Dedenne if we so wish. That's not really the goal here. We've got the ability. The ability Dene Change: when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may discard your hand and draw 6 cards. Though please remember this is limited to once during your turn. If you've already used a Dedenne, you're not allowed to then use another Dedenne. That would be cheeky and naughty and wrong. The rules don't allow it. You discard your hand, you draw 6 cards. Firstly, that gives you a lot of extra speed, but secondly, it allows you to discard your lightning energy. And remember, both Zeraora and Tapu Koko want your energy in the discard. Honest answer here is, if I can get 7 energy in the discard turn 1, I'm a happy boy. Not always possible, but it's good. Now, in terms of energy, one of the new cards that was released in Rebel Clash that really helps all lightning decks, Boltund included, is Speed Energy. We adore Speed Energy. It is a special energy. Now, unlike the old special energy cards, this actually provides lightning energy for any Pokemon. There was an old card called Flash Energy, which was similar to this, but it could only be attached to a lightning Pokemon. This can be attached to anyone. But when you attach it to a lightning Pokemon, you get to draw 2 cards. Remember, we need to set up. This is a speed deck. This is supposed to be a simple, straightforward speed deck. Drawing cards is good. And then after that, 9 lightning energy. Now, I wish I could give you a better explanation as to why we're playing exactly 9 lightning energy. Let's use a sword and shield print. I quite like this one. The answer is very simple. I've played a bunch of these decks in the past. I've seen a bunch of deck lists from other people playing similar kind of decks, and I know that 9 is about right. In reality, what you do with a deck like this is you play a bunch of games, you test and test and test and test and test, and there will be games where you don't have quite enough energy, or games where you've got too many, and eventually you'll settle on the right number. Do bear in mind, because Speed Energy, or Speed Lightning Energy as it's actually called, because it's a special energy, it cannot be accelerated using Tapu Koko or Zeraora, because they both refer to basic energy. Actually, Tapu Koko refers to lightning energy, but remember, speed energy is only a lightning energy when in play, when attached. Outside of that, it is not counted as a lightning energy, doesn't work with Tapu Koko. Now, in terms of our trainer line, we're going to be looking for a lot of 4-offs here. We want to make sure that we have got the fastest, most consistent deck possible. First job, we need to find our Pokemon, so what do? We play 4 Quick Ball. All of the Pokemon in this deck are basic Pokemon. Quick Ball searches you out any basic Pokemon. But you also discard a card from your hand, and of course you need to discard a card from your hand for Tapu Koko, and for Zeraora, assuming of course that card is an energy card. But we also play Electromagnetic Radar, and we play this as a 4-off. Now this is a slightly weirder one in this particular deck. You discard 2 cards from your hand and search your deck for 2 in any combination of Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX. Now we're not playing any Pokemon EX, we're playing standard format here. These are standard format decks. I don't know if I made that clear enough earlier, but let's make it clear now. We are sticking to the standard format here. That is, the expanded format is awesome. Big fan. But the majority of the tournaments, at least in Europe, tend to be standard format. And it is by far the better format for newer players. Smaller card pool. So we're sticking to standard for now. Nothing against expanded. Love me some expanded. My boy Regirock. Oh, have they given me Regirock? No, they haven't. Never mind. The demo account is unfortunately only work for standard anyway. There's a brilliant promo Regirock I absolutely adore, but it's only legal in standard. My favourite expanded deck. So much fun. Hey ho. Right, back to the deck list. Electromagnetic Radar. Hang on a second. Our main Pokemon here is a Pokemon V. Yes, it is. But Zeraora's a GX, and Dedenne's a GX. Rayquaza is, but it's Dragon, so it doesn't count. But the fact of the matter is, we've still got 5 possible targets, and it discards 2 cards from your hand. And remember, turn 1, we want 7 energy in the discard. That is a perfect scenario. This is going to help us out massively. Now, being a lightning deck, we just put 4 electro power in. And at this stage, if you're not putting 4 electro power in a lightning deck, I'm going to need a good reason why. During your turn, your lightning Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. You do an extra 30 damage. And it's an item card, so you can play as many as you like during your turn. If you're not putting 4 Electro Power into every Lightning deck until rotation, which is going to be end of August, early September, that is something you really, really need to be doing. It's kind of a given. Now, in terms of supporter cards, there is only one supporter we want to play here. It is Professor's Research. Or Professor's Research Magnolia. We assume the fact that they've given it a subtitle does make me think there will be more of these in the future. Professor's Research, Sycamore, or Juniper maybe. But as it stands at the moment, we only have Magnolia. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Phenomenal card. Fastest, most aggressive draw supporter we've got. And of course, you're discarding lots of cards from your hand, which is a very good thing. Because I keep telling you to discard energy, this has got your back. Now, because we're only playing one type of supporter, we want to be playing Pokegear 3.0. You look at the top 7 cards of your deck, you pick a supporter card, you put it into your hand. And what this really does is it increases the chances that you will draw a Professor Sycamore nice and early. The ideal scenario is you want to be playing this on turn 1. Well, turn 1 going first, you're not allowed to play a supporter, so let's say on the first turn you're allowed, and you want to be playing this. You need to be getting set up as fast as you possibly can. Now, outside of that, we're just playing cards to make this a little bit easier. So we're playing for Acrobike. You look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You put one into your hand and discard the other. Yes, it's another card that can discard energy, but it also acts as a little draw engine. And drawing cards with items is not something we see very much, and if you can make it work, it gives you a big advantage. So this is a card we absolutely love. And I keep telling you to draw lots of energy. And I keep telling you to discard lots of energy, so you really need 4 energy spinner here. It's phenomenal. Now, it lets you search for an energy, that's kind of... It's fine. It's not amazing, it's fine. But on your first turn of the game, if you go second, it searches free energy. Yeah. And then those free energy are ready to be attached or discarded. But again, really, you want to be attaching speed energy from your hand, and you want to be attaching this from the discard using our other Pokemon. So Energy Spinner becomes an absolute must-play. And then we play for Pokemon Catcher. Now, the concept of gusting, so called because of the base set card Gust of Wind, is one of the most important things in the Pokemon trading card game. Gusting refers to taking one of your opponent's Pokemon on their bench and dragging it into the active, i.e. being able to KO a Pokemon that your opponent hasn't left in the active, so that you can gain an advantage, take out Pokemon before they're fully powered up, take out a 2 or 3 prize Pokemon on the bench rather than a 1 prize Pokemon in the active, etc. Now, Pokemon Catcher isn't perfect. It's a coin flip card. It was originally released without a coin flip, and it was nuts. But they changed it years ago now, and now it has a coin flip. But if you can flip heads, you can gust any Pokemon from the bench into the active. An awful lot of people at the moment are playing one of the other new cards from Rebel Clash, that being Boss's Orders. It's a supporter card that drags any Pokemon active, no coin flip needed, but it's a supporter card. And we're playing a phenomenally fast deck, so we only want Professor Magnolia here. We don't have time for Giovanni. Sorry, Giovanni. And then the final 4 cards in our deck are going to be dedicated to Switch, which is a very difficult card to search for because it will find you any card with Switch in the text. The good news is the cards are listed in alphabetical order, so actually we just scroll along till we get to S, and we're good. And the thing about Switch is, it just switches, clues in the name, your active Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon, kind of like the opposite of Pokemon Catcher. And this does a number of things. It gets Tapu Koko on the bench. It gets Boltund in the active. It gets Zero Aura in and out the active. There are ways that your opponent can turn off Zero Aura's ability. Something like Power Plant, for instance, will turn it off. It's not a Pokemon, it's a trainer card. And that's just a stadium that turns off GX abilities. Now, you will notice we're not actually playing, any stadiums in this deck whatsoever. Again, it just goes back to what I'm saying. The point of this deck is, hey, look how fast my deck is. It is not supposed to be a nuanced deck. This is a tee-hee-hee, I'm setting up super fast and running over you kind of deck. This is the entire deck list, incidentally. That's it. It looks small compared to a lot of deck lists because there's so many 4-offs. So because of that, we want to have a whole bunch of switches so that if we can't have access to Zero Aura's ability, or if we want to switch more than once, i.e. maybe you want to get Boltund to the bench, so you can accelerate energy onto it with Tapu Koko and then get it back to the active, and retreating is limited to once during your turn, that's where switch comes in. So we love this deck. It's a very simple deck. We'll call it Boltund Test. And we're going to use a Sobble coin because why would we not? It is boiling in my room right now as I record this. It's a beautiful summer's day. So I did what any self-respecting Pokemon fan would do. I closed the curtains and I started making Pokemon videos. But if it wasn't so boiling here, I'd be wearing a Sobble hoodie right now. So Sobble's my boy and I love him. Might as well put it in a lightning deck box because I know we got one dragon Pokemon in there, but it's a lightning deck. And that's it. That's Boltund. That is a very streamlined deck. That is what we do when we want to build a deck that just goes off. Now, I've played with that deck a bunch, and it doesn't always work. No, that's a lie. It always works. What it doesn't always do is win, because it's trying to rush your opponent. If they set up big Pokemon, doesn't always stand up. One of the decks it doesn't always stand up to is Dragapult. Now, Dragapult is another one of these new cards from Rebel Clash, and we're really looking at the VMAX here. The V's good, but it's the VMAX we care about. 2 energy, 130 to the active, plus put 5 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. Believe me when I say, this adds up very quickly. It leads to many multiple prize turns. Now, Dragapult V for 2 energy does 140 if it became active this turn, that's fine, but most of the time, this is a stepping stone to get to the VMAX. I am playing this because of Max Phantom. That is the attack the deck is built around. That isn't to say I'm not going to use the other attacks, but it is to say that's the attack we're building around. Why are we playing a 3-3 line rather than a 4-4 line? Because this dude gives up free prizes. When 2 of these get KO'd, I lose the game. We play a 3-3 list because one might be prized or we might have to discard it in the early game or whatever. 4-4 would be perfect. 4-4 is greedy, quite frankly. We don't have the space for it. So we're playing a 3-3. Just like we saw in the Boltund deck, we are going to play a copy of the Den AGX for the ability, for the same reason, it gives us extra speed. But then what we're going to do is we are going to get tricksy. This is a kind of deck, now this is kind of the opposite deck to Boltund. Boltund was, I'm going to set up and announce the same attack turn after turn till I win. This deck I'm largely going to be announcing Max Phantom, but oh my word, I've got some tricks. One of the tricks I've got is Galarian Zigzagoon. I love Galarian Zigzagoon. You play it from your hand to your bench, and you get to place 1 damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, one of the biggest threats to Dragapult that we see around at the moment is Spiritomb. I love Spiritomb, it's one of my very, very favourite cards in the game right now. But the fact of the matter is, it can get a 1-hit KO on a Dragapult VMAX for 3 prizes. That is a bad thing. It's got 60 HP. My attack drops 5 damage counters. Can you see where we're going with this, ladies and gentlemen? Can you see where we're going with this? This means that I can KO a Spiritomb the turn that it is put down. And Spiritomb does more damage for each damage counter on it. The last thing I want to do is put damage on without KOing it. I cannot drop 5 damage counters on, as next turn with weakness it's hitting 320 damage. That's a bad thing. This gets me the KO. But I'm actually going one step further here. I'm playing Giratina. I'm going to use a pre-release promo because I love pre-release promos. Now, the Giratina, we can attack with it. We are actually playing Psychic Energy, but you almost never will. It's here for the ability Distortion Door. If it's in your discard pile, you can put it from your discard pile onto your bench, and then place 1 damage counter onto each of 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So, if my opponent's got 2 bench Spiritomb, I can drop a damage onto each of them. I probably won't, because I can only KO 1 using Dragapult, but I could if I wanted to. And the reason I love this, you discard it using one of the many cards we're going to look at in a moment, and it's always there. It's always sitting in my discard pile, ready to come out and use the ability. So as long as I've got a bench space free, I use the ability, whack it on my bench, we're good to go. Galarian Zigzagoon you've got to have in hand. But then Galarian Zigzagoon can drop damage on the active that Giratina can't. So we play one of each. And that is where we head on over to one of the very, very best cards that came around in Rebel Clash. It is Scoop Up Net. And we're playing 4 because it's redonk. It lets you pick up a non-V, non-GX and put it into your hand. Well, bearing in mind, this is an ability that works when you play it, so you then pick it up and play it again. This is an ability that works from the discard pile, so you pick it up, you discard it, and then it's ready to be used again from the discard pile. Nice. But there's actually, well, now we're playing Scoop Up Net anyway, there's another Pokemon I really want to use, and it's Mewtwo. I adore Mewtwo. Mewtwo has got the ability Mind Report, and let's use one with a fancy holo. And what it does is when you play it from your hand onto your bench, you can take a supporter card from your discard pile and put it on top of your deck. So something like that Boss's Orders I've mentioned, yeah, you can guarantee you need it. Problem is, it puts it on top of your deck, so now is the time I need to tell you about Oranguru. Oranguru lets you swap a card in your hand with the top card of your deck. So Mewtwo grabs a supporter card from your discard pile and puts it on top of your deck, and then Oranguru swaps any card in your hand for the top card of your deck, which you know is that supporter card because you just put it on top of your deck. Yes, I know we're getting into lots of one-of, but I wanted to show you a more tricksy deck. And actually, there's one more Pokemon I really want to use with Scoop Up Net, and it's another Giratina. You see, the Giratina I'm talking about is the one from, where is he gone? It is the one that came around in Unified Minds, because it's got an ability, when you play it from your hand onto your bench, you may discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, might as well spoil the surprise here, go slightly out of order, we're playing for Horror Energy. Horror Energy, if you get attacked, your opponent takes 2 damage counters. If you got 2 of them on your Dragapult, it's a Psychic Energy for anyone, but it only does the extra damage when attached to a Psychic Pokemon. If there's 2 attached, you do 4 damage counters and so on and so forth. Thing is, Dragapult's very popular right now. My opponent, if I'm playing against another Dragapult player, is going to be playing Horror Energy. Giratina gets rid of it. Or maybe it's a deck that's playing many different kinds of Pokemon and they're using Rainbow Energy to have an energy that counts as all different types. Whatever it is, Giratina gets rid of it, and Scoop Up Net reuses Giratina. But we're not done with the tricks yet. How about Mew? Now, Mew is an incredibly specific card. Mew is a Pokemon that sits on your bench and stops your opponent doing damage to your bench Pokemon. And this is what we refer to as a metagame call. It is a card that we play to counter other cards that we expect to be played. Like, for instance, Pikachu and Zekrom. Pikachu and Zekrom is... No, we're not putting it in the deck. Pikachu and Zekrom is probably the best Pokemon deck around at the moment. And the GX attack for 6 energy, but the first attack will accelerate 3 energy. It's so much easier to pay than it might look. Does 200 to the active and 170 to one of your bench Pokemon. And what Pikachu and Zekrom tends to do, or aims to do, is build up a multiple prize turn by KOing your active and a bench Pokemon at the same time. Mew is there to thwart them. Now, another Pokemon that I really like in this deck is Malamar. Now, Malamar has an ability that, let's go for the pre-release promo again. I love pre-release promos. The Malamar allows you to attach a Psychic Energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. Remember, Malamar's a stage 1, so if you want to play Malamar, you do have to play an Inkay as well. Here's the thing. Dragapult attacks for 2 energy. I know it has a single energy attack, but it's really not that good. So, what we have here is a 2 energy attack. Most of the time, it's going to be fine. Most of the time, I'm going to have time to attach this 2 energy. But when I was testing without Malamar, there were way too many times I just went, you know what? I don't have the energy. I can't win this game. That's where Malamar comes in, ladies and gentlemen. That's where Malamar comes in. Now, the other trick I want to play here is Fione. Another one that I can use a pre-release promo for. Yay! Now, Fione does 2 things. Well, it does one thing, but that one thing does 2 things. It's not the attack. If Fione's on your bench, you put it on the bottom of your deck, and then you make your opponent switch their active. Now, they get a choice. They get to put whatever bench Pokemon they want active, that's fine. But they do have to switch. Now, if you've got no cards in your deck at the beginning of your turn, you lose. Fione stops that happening. If you've got no cards left in your deck, you put Fione on the bottom of your deck, and now you have 1 card left in deck. You will not lose at the beginning of your next turn. Unless your opponent makes you discard that card, but we're not talking about those things today. But it also makes your opponent switch their active. Let's show you another really fun card from Rebel Clash. Galarian Casola. The ability says that if you KO it using damage, they get to flip a coin, and if heads, you're KO'd as well. When I was testing, I did play... No, actually, I played a tournament with this deck. You're going to see that tournament in the next video. One of my opponents plays this card. Fione is how I can avoid hitting into it. If I have to hit into Galarian Casola, I get 1 prize. They then flip heads and take 3 prizes off my VMAX. That is a very bad thing. Fione has very much got my back. And then we play free Jirachi. Jirachi is here for consistency. It is one of the very, very, very best Pokemon in the game. Man, this deck loves pre-release promos. The ability Stellar Wish lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it into your hand, and then it goes to sleep. As a side note here, we are going to be playing a skateboard. A skateboard reduces your retreat cost by 1, letting you retreat for free with Jirachi. But it also lets you retreat if you're asleep. Very important. You can use Scoop Up Net, but I've already shown you there are a bunch of Pokemon in this deck I want to use Scoop Up Net with, so I'm going to go ahead and use a skateboard. A skateboard is brilliant. Jirachi is brilliant. Now this is a weird, fancy, awkward, pedantic Pokemon line. This is a Dragapult deck, let's be clear. I am attacking with Dragapult. But everything else in my deck does something specific. Giratina and Galarian Zigzagoon to drop extra damage. Giratina to fight against special energy. Mew to protect my bench. Mewtwo to recover supporters. Oranguru for a little bit of consistency. Dedenne for consistency. Jirachi for consistency. Fione to stop my opponent sending something in the active I don't want to have there. Malamar to cover the fact that I'm a 2 energy Pokemon and I won't always have time. It's tricksy, but it does the job. No, I don't want to discard them. Now, in terms of energy, we're playing 4 Horror Energy because it's ridiculously awesome. As for Psychic Energy, we're playing 5. Now, what can I tell you in terms of why 5? It's like in the Boltund deck. I've looked at a bunch of deck lists, I've played a bunch of games, and I can tell you that when I'm playing 4, I feel like I don't have enough. And when I'm playing 6, I feel like I'm playing too many, and I'm wasting space in my deck. If I did not play Malamar, I'd probably play 1 or 2 more. But I am, so I don't mind. Now, in terms of Pokemon Search, again, we're playing a lot of basics, so 4 Quick Ball becomes an absolute no-brainer. But because the majority of my deck is Psychic, I'm also playing Mysterious Treasure. I again have to discard a card from my hand, but I now search for any Psychic Pokemon, and you can see that the majority of my deck here is Psychic. These aren't, Fione isn't, but most of my deck is, so Mysterious Treasure becomes a phenomenal, phenomenal card. Now, in terms of supporter cards, I am playing 4 Professor's Research. It is still the fastest, most aggressive supporter card in the game. So, Definitely something I want to be having to play around with. And I'm also playing 4 copies of Marnie. Now, Marnie is the other really good support. Well, one of 2, I suppose. You and your opponent, you both shuffle your hands, you put them on the bottom of your deck, you draw 5 cards, your opponent draws 4. Marnie gives you a new hand of cards, but the other thing Marnie does is slow your opponent down. You hope that by giving your opponent a hand of 4 cards, they're not going to have as many options as they did, and they may draw nothing and end up losing. In this deck, we do play Boss's Orders. I've already told you how important Gusting is. It is the best option in this deck. And we actually play a copy of Mallow and Lana here. Now, this is very, very popular for 2 and 3 prize Pokemon. You switch to the bench, and if you discard 2 cards from your hand, you can also heal 120. Well, when we look and see that Dragapult's got 320 HP, yeah, healing 120 is good. Not that many Pokemon are going to, some will, but not that many Pokemon are going to KO you in 1 hit. So Mallow and Lana comes in and says, look, you haven't KO'd me in 1 hit, now you're paying for it. Now here we do want a stadium. We absolutely want a stadium, and there are a few options. Chaotic Swell is a very nice option. Essentially, what it does is if your opponent plays a stadium to replace it, that stadium just gets discarded without doing anything. And that was one I used in testing, but I ended up with Viridian Forest. Why Viridian Forest? It lets me search an energy card. And I'm only playing 5 basic energy. And yes, I know I've got Malamar and all of that, but one of the biggest problems with Dragapult is if you miss an energy attachment. If you do not get a Dragapult with an energy on turn 1, you are almost certainly not getting Max Phantom turn 2. Getting that turn 1 energy is important. I'm not desperate to play any particular stadium here, but my opponent might be relying on a stadium. I want to have some counters. Viridian Forest is pretty nice. We play 2 copies of Switch, so that we can get our Pokemon in and out the active as we like. And then we actually play 3 copies of Giant Bomb. And what Giant Bomb does here beautifully is it covers particular matchups. Let me explain. So, no, only 2 Switch, 3 Giant Bomb. What Giant Bomb does is, if it is attached to your active Pokemon, and your active Pokemon would take 180 or more damage, you place 10 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. Now, it only lasts for 1 turn. It gets discarded whether it's used or not, so you have to time it correctly, but this just covers matchups. I mean, take something like Zacian. One of the very, very best Pokemon around at the moment, but only has 1 attack. And that 1 attack does 230. So if your opponent's attacking with this, they have no choice but to use Brave Blade. Also, 220 HP, and you're doing 130 damage. See where we're going with this? If your opponent attacks you, you place 10 damage counters on them, and all of a sudden, you can get a 1-hit KO when you weren't before. That's awesome. The other one here is Pikachu and Zekrom. Now, they can avoid this, because Pikachu and Zekrom naturally hits for 150, but they're going to be using that Electro Power card we mentioned. And that means they hit 180, which means they take the damage from Giant Bomb, which means you can then 1-hit KO. As a side note, because they've got 240, Giant Bomb plus Max Phantom won't get a KO, but remember, you're going to be using Horror Energy. Single Horror Energy and Giant Bomb means they take 120, then you can KO. It's a matchup thing. It sets matchups into your favor that otherwise would not be. Or at least makes them 50-50. It's phenomenal. And Pikachu and Zekrom can go, ha ha ha, joke's on you. I'm only using full blitz for 150, brilliant. Now instead of a 2-hit KO, you're getting a 3-hit KO. So either you get a 3-hit KO, or you allow me to get a 1-hit KO. Either way, I am totally fine with this. This is an awkward deck. The kind of deck you have to scroll up and down to see all of the cards. It's very different to Boltund. But what I wanted to show you in this video was making 2 very different decks. One very straightforward, 4 of everything, linear strategy deck, and one not. Now don't get me wrong. the vast majority of turns you're still going to announce max Phantasmagoria attack here. But there will be some turns you are desperately digging for Zigzagoon to get a key KO. Some turns you're going to need Giant Bomb to make sure your opponent takes a bunch of damage. Some turns Giratina is going to be needed to start getting rid of special energy. It's a much more difficult deck to play, but it gives you some really fun options. Now, one thing I should mention here very quickly, if you're looking at where to take these decks, get in touch with your local game store. Because a whole bunch of people are starting to, well, just do these online tournaments. Get in touch with your local game store, see if they're running online tournaments, and if they're not, maybe, give them a poke and suggest that maybe they do, because online tournaments at your local game store is fun. Now, the good news is I've got one more video left for Pokemon, and it is actually going to be me competing in a tournament, and I'm going to play a 4-round tournament with this exact deck. This is the exact 60-card deck that I'm going to be playing in that tournament. So if you want to see how the deck works, join me later on today or tomorrow, depends on the upload schedule, and you get to see this deck in action, and I assure you, that one's a lot of fun. For now, one more shout out to the lovely folks at Pokemon for commissioning me to make this video. I'm going to make Pokemon TCG videos regardless. Seriously, look at my channel. I ain't lying. But if Pokemon want to commission me to do it, no arguments here, ladies and gentlemen. No arguments here. For now, if you got any questions about this deck or the Boltund deck, any suggestions, or indeed, if you just want to tell me what your favorite deck is, and yes, I am going to be reading all the comments, and yes, I genuinely want to know, chuck them down in the comment section, go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, where we can talk Pokemon, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Whatever you want to talk about. Mostly Pokemon. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio. Bye!